The chamber of the Galactic Council was built to dwarf pride. Columns of light rose like pillars of eternity, vanishing into a vaulted ceiling lost in haze. Rows of alien delegates filled tiered balconies, their forms as varied as the stars themselves, some crystalline, some scaled, some barely visible behind protective veils of atmosphere. At the center of the arena, a polished floor stretched wide and empty, gleaming like a mirror. Above it, a cage of shifting gravity fields hung suspended. Inside waited silence, heavy and oppressive, the anticipation of something about to be unleashed. Dr. Elias Cade stood in the human delegation's modest alcove, adjusting the collar of his formal jacket. Compared to the silken robes, crystalline headdresses, and polished carapaces around him, he looked plain, ordinary. Yet his brown eyes tracked every ripple of movement in the chamber, every tremor of expectation. His mind buzzed with excitement, not dread. Beside him, Ambassador Rena Solano leaned close, whispering urgently. Elias, remember your role. You observe. You take notes. Nothing else. These proceedings aren't about us. He gave her a faint smile. Aren't they? The murmur of the crowd fell away as the High Chancellor approached the dais. Srakhth's reptilian frame gleamed with iridescent scales, his crest raised high in ceremonial dominance. His voice carried effortlessly through the chamber, sonorous and commanding. Species of the Council, he intoned. We convene to address the humans. They have spread across the stars with dangerous boldness, unafraid of what wiser civilizations avoid. They speak of forging bonds with the unknown, of taming what no one dares touch. Today, they will learn humility. Dozens of alien eyes turned toward the Terran alcove. Some gleamed with disdain, others with pity, a few with curiosity. Elias felt the weight of their gaze, but instead of shrinking, he straightened. Srakhth extended a claw toward the cage. Behold the Vrasilith. Apex among apex. Predator of predators. In every world where it walks, it reigns absolute. No chain binds it, no mind guides it. Even now, only this cage of collapsed gravity restrains it. The cage shimmered, and the creature within stirred. A low vibration thrummed across the chamber, felt in bones before ears. Delegates flinched. Elias leaned forward, eyes narrowing. The Vrasilith unfurled slowly, deliberate as a king rising from a throne. Obsidian scales caught the light, each plate edged in faint bioluminescence. For limbs dug into the field's invisible floor, claws scoring sparks against gravity's distortion. Its head lifted, golden eyes locking on the assembly with predatory precision. The air thickened, instinct screaming flight. A crystalline delegate dropped its staff in terror. A scaled warrior too rose up, hissed, and turned away. Fear rippled outward, undeniable and primal. Elias whispered under his breath, not in awe but in study. Respiration shallow but steady. Watching, not thrashing. Smarter than they admit. The beast's gaze swept the chamber, dismissing one terrified species after another. Then it paused, fixing on the Terran alcove. Elias felt the weight of that stare, a golden furnace boring into him. His heart quickened, but he did not look away. Srakhth raised his voice above the unease. No one approaches the Vrasilith. No one survives its notice. It is nature's decree embodied. To resist is death. To presume mastery is arrogance. His crest flared with triumph. And arrogance is humanity's disease. Ambassador Solano's hand gripped Elias' sleeve hard. Don't even think about it, she hissed. He tilted his head, still studying the creature. It's not trying to kill us. Not yet. Look at its stance, curious, not hostile. Elias, she snapped. Enough. But he could not stop. Every fiber of training urged him to read patterns, to seek understanding. The Vrasilith blinked slowly, a deliberate movement. Not random. Measured. A signal? Its chest expanded with a resonant growl, not quite a threat, not quite a greeting. The Chancellor's speech continued, but the chamber's focus was locked on the predator and the human who dared meet its eyes. Whispers rose. Does it hesitate? Murmured one avian delegate. Impossible. It recognizes only prey, another retorted. Srax silenced them with a sweep of his claw. This beast is untouchable. Remember this image, humans. You will never conquer all you encounter. Defiance invites extinction. The Vrasilith lunged suddenly, smashing against the gravity field. The chamber shook. Dozens of species cried out in panic. Sparks of distorted light cascaded from the barrier as the creature's roar shook the walls, a sound older than speech. Ambassador Solano stumbled back, hand to her chest. God, it's going to break free! Elias remained still, gripping the rail before him. His pulse pounded in his ears, but he refused to step back. He studied the pattern of the strike, the angle of the claws, the way its head twisted. Testing, not berserk. Calculated pressure. He whispered, almost reverently, "You're not showing rage. You're measuring us." The words weren't meant for anyone but himself, yet the predator's golden eyes snapped back to him. Silence fell heavy again, broken only by the predator's slow, deliberate breathing. Sraktha's crest lowered slightly, irritation flashing through his composed facade. "Do you see, humans? This terror is your teacher. It will remind you of your smallness." Elias' lips curved faintly, not in mockery but in quiet defiance. He turned to the Chancellor and spoke clearly, his voice carrying farther than expected. "Or perhaps it will remind us what's possible." A ripple of disbelief coursed through the chamber. Whispers rose to shouts, alien tongues tripping over each other in outrage. Security drones shifted in the air. Solano grabbed Elias' arm, her face pale with fury. "Elias, for the love of Earth, shut your mouth!" But he kept his eyes on the predator, unblinking. The chamber could seethe, the Chancellor could thunder, but in that moment only one truth consumed him, something no one else had dared see. Not impossible. Only waiting. The predator's chest rose, golden eyes narrowing as though it understood. And for a heartbeat that stretched like eternity, Elias Cade and the Vrasilith regarded each other, not as scientist and specimen, not as predator and prey, but as two beings refusing to look away first. The silence pressed down until it cracked with the Chancellor's roar. "End the demonstration!" The cage shimmered brighter, drawing the predator upward again, pulling it away from the floor. It snarled, not in frustration but almost in denial, gaze locked on Elias until the last possible instant. The chamber erupted in clamor, delegates panicking, others debating, guards securing exits. Humanity's delegation huddled in embarrassment, Solano cursing under her breath. Elias only leaned back, exhaling slowly. His heart still thundered, but his voice was steady. "Not impossible," he murmured again, softer this time. "Just misunderstood." The words were lost in the uproar, but the predator's final golden glare seemed to echo them back. The council chamber had not yet recovered from the first demonstration when Sract raised a clawed hand for silence. The noise dulled, but unease hung thick in the air. Delegates muttered behind hands, wings, and mandibles, their gazes flicking between the restrained predator and the human delegation. Sraktha's voice slashed through the murmurs. "The lesson is not complete. Let the humans witness more closely. Drop the cage." The words landed like thunder. Gasps rippled across the tiers. Ambassador Solano's face drained of color. "Closer? That's lunacy." She spat, gripping Elias' arm. "They're making a spectacle of us. Don't even breathe wrong." But Elias was already watching the shimmering barrier as it lowered. The Vrasilith descended with it, claws clacking against the smooth arena floor. Each step sent tremors through the chamber's silence. The predator's head swiveled slowly, its golden eyes scanning the balconies before returning, inexorably, to the Terran alcove. "Impossible," hissed a delegate with plated jaws. "It looks for them." Elias stepped forward instinctively, drawn by the weight of that stare. His pulse hammered, but the fear that gripped the chamber had not yet seized him. Instead, he saw details others missed, the twitch of a muscle at rest, the deliberate spacing of its steps, the control in its breathing. "This isn't rage," he murmured. "It's testing boundaries." "Dr. Cade!" Solano's whisper was a command. Stay put. Do not make yourself the Council's example. The Predator's roar erupted again, shaking dust from the ceiling beams. Security drones descended in formation, lights flashing, weapons primed. Sraktha's crest blazed with satisfaction. Behold, he boomed, chaos caged by order. This is the fate of those who presume mastery. Elias' lips pressed thin. The Council wanted fear, not truth. He looked at the Predator again and saw not chaos but calculation. Something inside him, equal parts instinct and defiance, rose to meet that challenge. Before he had time to second-guess, Elias left the alcove. Elias! Solano lunged, but he slipped from her grasp and stepped into the open arena. The chamber erupted instantly, shouts in dozens of languages, cries of horror, demands for restraint. Guards raised weapons, drones swiveled toward him. Sraktha's voice cut through the uproar. Restrain the human. Now. But Elias kept walking, his voice calm, carrying clearly. You wanted us to learn? Let us face it ourselves. No shields. No cages. Just one step at a time. The Chancellor's slit pupils narrowed, but his order to the guards faltered under the weight of so many watching eyes. No one dared interrupt what might become the most memorable moment in Council history. Elias stopped halfway across the arena, the Predator only meters away. Its breath washed over him, hot and metallic, tinged with ozone. The beast lowered its head slightly, muscles rippling, claws flexing. One strike would end him before a scream could form. He spoke softly, voice steady despite his racing pulse. I know you. You're not thrashing mindlessly. You're measuring us. You're asking what I'll do? The Predator growled, a sound that vibrated through the floor and rattled Elias' chest. Its golden eyes narrowed, fixed wholly on him. From the balcony, Solano's voice cracked with desperation. Elias, stop! Please! He ignored her, taking one step closer. Delegates shouted in disbelief. Some demanded intervention, others leaned forward, caught between horror and fascination. For them, this was blasphemy, a human daring to close the distance where every other species fled. The Predator's body coiled, muscles tightening like drawn steel. Then it lunged. The chamber shrieked with terror. Guards leapt forward, drones fired containment beams, but the strike halted an arm's length from Elias. Claws slammed against the floor, gouging deep scars, but stopped short of flesh. Elias did not flinch. He stood his ground, meeting those burning eyes. His heart thundered, but his voice stayed even. You could have ended me. But you didn't. For a breathless instant, Predator and humans stared at one another. The chamber seemed to collapse into silence, every species frozen. Elias slowly lifted his hand. If you're more than they say, show me! Gasps and curses rang out. To the Council, this was insanity, an open hand where every instinct demanded distance. The Predator's nostrils flared. It leaned forward, its massive skull lowering until Elias' hand hovered inches from its obsidian scales. The tension was unbearable, the entire chamber straining toward the moment. Then contact. Elias' palm pressed against the creature's brow. Heat radiated from its skin, muscles shifting under armor-thick plates. A low vibration rumbled beneath his touch, a growl that did not threaten but resonated, deep and steady. The council chamber broke. Screams, gasps, furious shouts filled the air. Some delegates recoiled, others pressed forward, unable to believe what they saw. A human, touching the untouchable. Sraktha's composure cracked. His crest snapped flat against his skull, voice trembling with fury. This cannot be! Guards, remove him at once! But no one moved. Even the drones hesitated, their programming frozen by conflicting orders. Every eye in the chamber remained fixed on Elias, his hand resting gently on the apex predator's head. The Vrasilis shifted, lowering its body until it crouched on the floor, chest heaving. It did not attack. It did not resist. Instead, it curled slightly toward him, a posture closer to acknowledgement than submission. Elias' voice carried again, calm, certain. You see a monster. I see something waiting to be understood. The growl beneath his hand deepened, almost like a purr. Delegates shouted accusations. Blasphemy! Sorcery! He endangers us all! The chamber teetered on the edge of chaos, yet none could look away from the impossible tableau. Srax slammed a clawed fist against the dais. Enough! This is deception, trickery! The human risks every life here with his arrogance. Elias turned his head slightly, eyes meeting the Chancellor's. No, Chancellor. I risked only mine. And it seems, the galaxy had more faith in me than you did. The words landed like blades, slicing through the uproar. Some delegates hissed in fury, others exchanged glances heavy with new calculation. The image was burned into them, a man and a monster, standing side by side, either destroying the other. The predator rumbled once more and lowered its head fully, resting against the floor beside Elias. The chamber's silence returned, not born of fear now, but of disbelief. Elias left his hand resting on the great beast's brow, his expression steady. Inside, adrenaline still roared, but his voice remained measured. Not impossible, he whispered. Never impossible. The chamber would remember this moment for centuries. The council chamber stood in stunned silence. A man in the Vrasilis shared the arena floor, Predator crouched low, its golden eyes calm. Elias' hand still rested on its brow. The impossible had not only happened, it lingered before hundreds of witnesses. The silence cracked first in whispers. Did it submit? No creature of that line has ever. Unthinkable. Dangerous. The whispers swelled into argument, dozens of languages rising at once. Some delegates shrieked of witchcraft, others hissed that the council had lost its authority, a few muttered cautiously of alliances. High Chancellor Srax slammed his fist onto the dais. The sound cracked like thunder, forcing momentary quiet. His crest lay flat, fury burning in his eyes. This is heresy! A deception staged to humiliate us! The beast is untamable. It must be. Elias turned slowly toward him, still keeping a hand on the predator's crown. What you call heresy, Chancellor, I call truth. Gasps rippled. No delegate had spoken to Srax so directly in decades. You endanger us all, the Chancellor roared. That thing is no ally, no partner. It is chaos incarnate. And now you make it your companion? The predator stirred at the harsh tone, rumbling deep in its chest. Elias steadied it with a gentle press of his palm, speaking quietly. Easy. He's afraid. That's all. From the Terran alcove, Ambassador Solano shouted, voice sharp with both terror and rage. Elias! Step away before you damn us all! But he shook his head, gaze never leaving the Chancellor. This isn't about damnation. It's about possibility. The chamber erupted again, factions splitting along fault lines revealed in seconds. The crystalline Vaith delegates leaned forward, eyes glittering. If humans can bond with the Vrasilith, what else might they achieve? They whispered. The insectoid Yurix shrieked warnings of doom. The aquatic Zoa rippled anxiously in their sealed tanks, torn between awe and dread. Srax's claws gripped the dais edge until stone cracked beneath him. You would fracture the council itself with this reckless display. Humanity cannot be trusted. You bring instability, chaos, war. Elias finally removed his hand from the predator, though the beast stayed lowered, as if tethered by invisible threads. He stepped forward, voice carrying. You fear change. But fear doesn't bind the galaxy, it cages it. You think this creature proves limits. I think it proves we haven't tried hard enough. Humanity doesn't cower before the unknown. We reach toward it. The words rang clear, slicing through the bedlam. Delegates froze, caught between disbelief and reluctant admiration. The predator rumbled once, shifting closer to Elias until its massive frame loomed protectively at his side. The image seared itself into every eye, the untamable choosing companionship. Solano buried her face in her hands. He's rewritten history, she whispered. Srax's voice shook with venom. This will not stand. Humanity will answer for this transgression. For this insult. Elias met his gaze without flinching. I didn't insult you, Chancellor. I reminded you the universe isn't yours to dictate. A hiss rolled through the chamber. Delegates recoiled, anticipating the Chancellor's wrath. Instead, Srath fell silent, eyes burning with calculation. He could not order Elias' execution here, not before so many witnesses, not after what they had seen. To kill the man now would only confirm humanity's legend. The council dissolved into chaos. Some shouted to ban humanity from further sessions. Others demanded investigation. A few, quieter but growing, spoke of new partnerships, species long marginalized suddenly intrigued by a people bold enough to stroke death and survive. Through it all, Elias stood steady, the predator of Black Mountain at his side. Finally, he spoke again, voice firm but calm. You wanted a lesson. Here it is, limits are not laws. They are challenges. Humanity will not bow to fear. Not yours, not the galaxy's, not even this creature's. The predator growled softly, golden eyes still locked on him. Srax snarled, but his authority faltered in the uproar. Remove them from the chamber. Now. Guards hesitated, weapons raised but hands trembling. None wanted to test whether the predator would allow interference. Elias turned, walking slowly back toward the Terran alcove. The predator rose and followed with a lumbering grace, eyes sweeping the chamber like a warning. The sight sent another wave of shock through the assembly. For the first time, the predator did not return to its cage. It followed the human. At the alcove's edge, Elias paused. He looked up at the tiers of delegates, their eyes wide with disbelief. Maybe it's not about taming the galaxy, he said softly, but his words carried. Maybe it's about showing it we're not afraid to reach out. The predator rumbled once more, as if to punctuate the thought. Elias stepped inside the alcove. Solano seized his arm, face pale, voice a strained whisper. Do you realize what you've done? You may have just doomed us. He met her gaze, calm despite the adrenaline still racing through him. Or saved us. Time will decide. Behind him, the predator settled near the alcove like a sentinel, unchained, unchallenged. The council chamber seethed with argument, but none could erase the image before them, a human standing beside the galaxy's terror, both alive, both unbroken. The meeting dissolved in chaos. Species hurried from their seats, some terrified, some emboldened, all forever changed. Srath remained at the dais, claws digging furrows into the stone, eyes promising vengeance. Elias sat at last, exhaustion weighing on him. He rubbed his temples, whispering only to himself. Not impossible. Never impossible. The predator's golden gaze lingered, unblinking, as if it agreed.